Let's do this. It's the Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm Kurt Leavins at the Cult of Hockey from the Edmonton Journal, and I'm tonight with our good friend, Kevin McCurdy. Kevin, how does that suit you?
I love it, man. Let's give her another run. Let's see what happens.
Here we come, Florida Panthers. It's the rematch. A big clinching win in Game 5 for the Edmonton Oilers, 6-3 over the Dallas Stars in the Big D, a place where Dallas has just been dead great this year. And the Oilers walked in there and bossed this one, and we're headed to the finals. Couldn't be happier. I'm sure all of oil country feels exactly the same way. This is our two good things. Almost could pick three because it's a clincher, but let's stick with the two. Two good things, one bad thing, one number edition of our podcast. And let's turn it over to Kevin for good thing number one.
I think the obvious choice tonight is, we're going back to the Stanley Cup Finals. Let's do this.
You know, we're sometimes we are so analytical at this site, and hey, that's part of what makes the world go around. But we're fans, right? And so we're happy and cheering just like everybody else.
Yeah, no, it's I'm really excited. I really hope the team is ready to go. It was an effort. They came out strong. They had a little bit of a lull there in the second period, and then they got their act together and really just locked it down in the third period.
For the third consecutive game, the Oilers only allowed 4 shots in the third period, and in this one, they did not allow a single Dallas shot in the last 10 minutes. That is the very definition of lockdown hockey.
That's exceptional. And they've been doing it game after game after game too. Like, it's just a whole nother way for them to win games. And being able to just smother teams like Florida is going to be super important to their success if they want to lift the cup this year.
Yeah, I think it's official. These guys can defend.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe Connor McDavid will be happy to hear that. So yeah, so I love it. I think it's great that is your first good thing. Love it, and let's stick with it. You know what? Part of that defensive effort is the series and the playoffs and postseason that this blue line has put together. Great to see Matthias Ekholm return to the lineup tonight. He played around 15 minutes and I thought was solid. Didn't look out of place. Maybe the tiniest bit rusty, but he was dependable back there. I thought he was fine. I thought the best defenseman on the team tonight was Jake Walman. And in my Cult of Hockey game grades, player grades, I graded him out as an 8. I thought he was just marvelous skating in this one. There were a few times where just because of his strong edges and his powerful stride, he was able to skate the puck to safety. This is a guy who, when we got him, we thought, well, this is a guy, a good first pass guy, got a big shot, going to give a little bit of offense. I did not expect this kind of a defensive effort from Jake Walman. The second goal was Jake Walman retrieving the puck in his own and then having the presence of mind to pick his head up and realize that Dallas was on a change.
Yeah.
And really quickly headman the puck to Arvidsson. And that turned into the 2-0 goal. Defensively, he was great. Just a terrific defensive stuff on Duchesne in the second period. Then yet another fine headman pass to Leon Draisaitl ahead of the 5-3 goal. He was just all over the place, skated miles. And so far in this postseason, Jake Walman is leading the Edmonton Oilers in plus minus at plus 12. What an acquisition by Stan Bowman.
Yeah, I love how Jake uses the net. I think that's one of his best tools. Kelly Rudy was talking about it in one of the intermissions, just how like strong he is around the net, and he's not afraid to play ring around the rosy with guys, and he'll win basically every time because he just has a big brain and uses that separation to his advantage. He doesn't need much, but he creates just enough with it to get himself out of trouble. He's really cool with the puck, and I really like that about him. And that contract is so cost controlled in the scheme of things for what he's been delivering.
Absolutely.
What a fantastic acquisition.
Yeah. He's kind of got his own version of the Savardi and Spinorama out there. It's he tucks that shoulder in and he uses those edges, and he can curl out of trouble. Like it is amazing. And he seems to have a really low center of gravity out there as well. He doesn't get knocked over easy. He can turn on a pin and not topple over. Yeah, like you. It's what a treat to have this guy on the team. Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to say he has a really deft touch too. Like he knows just the right amount of weight to put on stuff, and he's not afraid to try weird shots or weird plays in order to, like, he loves the end board bounces and stuff. It was one of the first things I noticed about him.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot to like about that player. I'm totally with you. Okay. I love your slam dunk for good thing number one was the win itself. I think that was perfect. Good thing number two, Kevin.
Good thing number two is, you know what? Bad goals happen. And in the case of Stuart Skinner, a bad goal happened. And instead of our previous experience in the playoffs, Stuart Skinner picked himself up, dusted himself off, and then promptly slammed the door, basically for the rest of the game, right? Like that one goal was pretty weak. The low 5-hole goal with no block, no that, like, that's just one that you want your goalie to have, and I'm sure he wants back, to use that overused phrase. But he responded well and bounced back to help deliver the W, and that's that's where we need him going into the next series. I can't ask for anything else.
Yep. A critical stop after that goal on Blackwell kept the score at 5-3. I thought that was maybe his most important save late. Stopped 17 of 20 tonight. I don't think it was his best game of this series. I graded him out of 6. But, at the end of the day, full marks, because he has outdueled Jake Ottinger in back-to-back Western Conference Finals. And I don't think there weren't many people who predicted either one. But I highly doubt many predicted this one. So good on him.
I doubt many people predicted him getting pulled after 2 goals too.
So I'm interested. I have an opinion. What did you think of Debor's pull after the 2-0 goal?
I felt okay. So there was 2 major issues with it. Number one, he had burned both his timeout and his goalie pull, which is essentially a free timeout, in the first 8 minutes of the game. Right? Like, that's, if you need a timeout for later, I don't know, for when the net's empty, for example, and your guys need a breather, you don't have it. And that contributed to Edmonton just continuing to smother those guys. So I didn't love a lot about it, actually. There was him leaving sort of to go back to the net and then getting yoinked back to say, no, take a seat. I understand why Jake was visibly upset about that decision. I don't think it was handled very well. I think it was a spur of the moment decision, and I think him and Debor are likely going to have a conversation about it. To Pete's point that I'm sure he's going to make, he needs Jake to be better, but holy crap, did his team come out flat.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's been we talked about that last pod. That's been a recurring theme for the Dallas Stars and bit them again. So blaming your goalie is kind of, a weird take. That said, in terms of expected goals, Ottinger was -1.5 on 2 goals against. That's not great. Skinner was just about -1/3 of a goal. So even with that stinker, he was still he was still probably positive on everything else on the night.
Well, I love your take. I think it's really smart. Here are my thoughts. I'm sure what Debor was trying to do is spur his team on,
Yep.
wake them the hell up, right? So I understand it from that standpoint.
Yep.
But I actually think the pull there did more to energize the Oilers. It's like, okay, now we've really got them on the run. We've chased their star goaltender, right?
In the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, I do think that gave the Oilers a bit of juice. And hey, they made it 3-0 after that. And the other thing that I think, and I'd feel this way if it was Stuart Skinner too, this is the girl that you brought to the dance.
Yeah.
This is the guy that got you this far. And you know what? I would have been okay with an interim poll just to get your team's attention.
Yeah.
But then I think I would have put him back in there because he's your best goaltender. And Casey DeSmith, that Evander Kane goal, with no disrespect to Evander Kane, that puck can't go in, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a bounce off your defenseman, but it doesn't matter at that point. You're in another one can't go in mode, right?
Yeah.
So I think I understood his strategic intentions, but I think it backfired in a number of ways, including the several that you pointed out. So
I think that's pretty obvious that Pete Debor was rattled, and he's been rattled for a while. And this is not just a this game problem. It's I just don't think he quite has the roster construction to play the way that he wants to play, and evidenced by how their defense is constructed and whatnot. So I think that was just frustration and maybe a poorly timed piece of temper. And I get it. To your point, I think you're right. I think he was trying to rattle the paint can and say, let's go, boys, but you are in your elimination game. You have to take your best players to the end of that game.
Yeah. When we compare the two coaches as a contrast against one another, after the first goal, Pete Debor looked pissed right off, like visibly so. And I don't think Chris Knobloch's expression changed the entire 60 minutes.
Well, Chris is kind of known for being the coolest cucumber. I think I've seen him like visibly mad or visibly impacted by something like once or twice. Like he'll show a wry smile and stuff all the time, but he doesn't ever get mad about stuff.
Yeah.
So they're visibly different coaches.
Well, that was a bit of an aside, but I think an alley very clearly worth going down. That was a great conversation. My second good thing, Jeff Skinner. Look, I love an underdog. I was a Montreal Expos fan all my life for a reason. Right? And here's a guy, Jeff Skinner, who played 1,078 regular season games before he got into a postseason game. Got into one and then sat. He was in the press box until multiple injuries more or less forced him back into the lineup. And by all accounts, Jeff Skinner was a tremendous soldier while he was waiting for his chance, was the consummate teammate, never stuck his lip out, always put the work in. And when they really needed him, they put him in Game 5, and you know what? Jeff Skinner stepped up. Swatted home a loose puck in front for the 3-0. Which he claimed after the fact in the postgame interviews that he actually didn't see it go in. It's just, he waits all that time for a Stanley Cup playoff goal and didn't see it go in the net. Was a bit of a shame. But you know what? For all the people who say, he's a liability defensively, at one point he wisely skated the puck out of his own to safety after a really hard Dallas push. Had back-to-back shots on a really effective second round chip. Then another really strong back check early in the third period. And then Jeff Skinner, the guy that so many commentators say, it's pretty clear the coach doesn't trust him, was on the ice with the lead with just 3 minutes left on the clock, which suggests to me that the coach, I think, does trust this guy after all. I was just genuinely happy for the guy.
Yeah, I think Knobloch has views Skinner as a time and place kind of player, and I think that there's some validity to that. Like, we talked a little bit before the podcast, but I think that in series like against LA or even potentially like a series against Florida, that Jeff might have more challenges just because those are grittier series and he's more of a finesse player. But in this series, I actually think he would have made a bigger impact if he had had some more play time in it, just because Dallas doesn't throw their weight around as much, and he plays smart hockey that has good vision. He uses the ice well, and he's come a long way in his defensive game this year. I do feel the Oilers have done a really good job reshaping that aspect of his game.
Yep. Since Christmas, he's a different kind of player, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Yeah. All right. We don't want to spend too much thing on bad things. We're going to the Stanley Cup Finals. But let's knock one out each. What one do you have on your list?
My bad thing is I think John Klingberg struggled a bit tonight.
Agree.
He got shelled in Corsi. It was 8-4, 24 against, 1-7 shots, 4 shots against. Excuse me. I don't think that John Klingberg had his best game. I felt Dallas was picking on him a little bit, and his expected goal numbers was sub 10%. So that's usually evidence that game is not going in a player's direction at all. And I don't think that I hope it's not because of injury or anything like that. I just think he had a poor game, and there was a couple of changes in the defense core that kind of shook up what was pretty steady ship otherwise.
Yeah. I think I graded him out of 5, which was maybe kind, but I didn't think he was worse than a 5. And my comment was bent but didn't break. And I guess I'll add to that, he bent quite a bit, but didn't break. So, speaking of bending and breaking, my bad thing is Brett Kulak, who really fought it early tonight. I just thought he had a horrendous first period. I mean, he handed Dallas the 3-1 goal. That was a careless turnover, and he wasn't the only person at fault on that play. Certainly Darnell Nurse shaded way further over to the wall than he should have on that one. But the fact of the matter is, you're the last man back with the puck. You just have to make a safer play than he did on that. But he had a couple other turnovers in the same period as well, and just couldn't seem to get out of his own way. And after that second turnover, then he took a hooking call and put his team on the PK. But you know what? I'm happy to say this. After he got out of the box, Brett Kulak's game turned around. And that pairing of Nurse and Kulak, which I thought had a shaky start, turned into their strength by the end of the game. I thought that pairing was great down the stretch. And Kulak really finished strong. And when I checked 5-on-5 high danger scoring chances for and against at the end of the game, Kulak was 10-4 and 1 against.
Are you submarining the rules here? Are you really sneaking in a third good thing here?
It's my third good thing. That's right. So after 20 minutes, I thought, good God, Brett Kulak, where has the great playoff Brett Kulak gone? But he found it and brought it out when it mattered the most. So good on him.
Absolutely. No, I think Brett brought it back at the end of the game. Him and Darnell Nurse at 5v5 are running 70% Corsi, and as you said, we're running away with high danger chances 4, and really delivered it. I don't love the pairing. I don't. I vastly preferred Nurse Stetcher and Kulak Bouchard. That's just me, but we'll see how that shapes up in the next series.
Yep. I'd sooner have Ekholm in than Stetcher. So then the question becomes, well, if you leave Stetcher in, who comes out? And I'm not sure if I have an answer for that.
It depends on if Klingberg has something that's nagging him, or if it was just a one-off, poor game.
Yeah, fair comment on your part. Okay, number time. My number is 8. 2 years ago, when the Edmonton Oilers lost to the eventual Stanley Cup champion Vegas Golden Knights, the comment was made by a lot of people that this was still a 2-person team, and they just weren't ready to win yet. And you know what? As much as I had issues with that comment. It was hard to argue with it in the final analysis.
Yep.
That has changed. Not only the defensive effort that we saw in the third period again tonight, but the depth that Stan Bowman has brought together was really paid off in this postseason. 8 is my number because 8 different Edmonton Oilers have now scored 5 goals in the playoffs. Corey Perry and Leon Draisaitl lead the team with 7. Then it's Connor McDavid and Evan Bouchard with 6. And then the grouping with 5. Evander King got his 5th tonight. Zach Hyman, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and Connor Brown. And if you want to extend it, Adam Henrique has 4, and Matthias Janmark and Kasperi Kapanen, who got another empty netter tonight, that's all he does apparently, have 3. I cannot remember the last time the Edmonton Oilers, well, that's not true. I can remember the last time the Edmonton Oilers had this kind of depth scoring. And they were winning Stanley Cups when they were doing that. So it's been a while.
No, absolutely. I think that this team is deeper, and I think they've just have a bit more chemistry as well. There's some really interesting lines developing too that I've noticed with, in particular, in Janmark's deployment tonight. I just overall I think the bottom 6 is actually kind of a bottom 6 now. We'll see how the Hyman injury plays into that, because obviously some people are going to get moved around, especially against Florida, but I'm a little less concerned than I was last year, and particularly the year before.
Yep, I'm with you. What's your number?
Victor Arvidsson at 5v5 tonight had a 98.5% expected goals for. That little tank was all over. It was just a little wrecking ball, just running around. The puck was always moving in the right direction with him. I know he's a controversial player sometimes, and he had, in my view, a phenomenal game considering how much, to an extent, he was getting ragdolled out there, right? He was still fighting the puck. Didn't matter if he was on his knees, on his back, on his whatever. He was fighting for the puck with everything that he had, and there were some shifts that, by the end of it, I was going, how are you still standing? I was expecting him to just, fall over and they have to, carry him off the ice, because he took a real beating on a couple of those shifts, and, clearly no worse for wear. He was everywhere tonight.
There were 2 shifts in particular that I'll single out. I'm really glad you mentioned Arvidsson, because I thought he had an excellent game tonight. I graded him out of 7. Near the end of the first period, that shift that he and Vasily Podkolzin turned in the Dallas zone, that hard grinding shift that was mostly behind the Dallas goal line, was really impressive. And then Arvidsson on his own in the third period, that battle for the puck again behind the Dallas goal line, he just wouldn't be denied. Talk about tenacity. Tonight, the performance by Victor Arvidsson was the player I hoped we were getting when we signed him in the offseason. And I got to say, if I'm being honest, for the most part, we haven't seen the season. But the Arvidsson tonight was the guy who I kept watching him play against us and went, God, I wish that guy was on our team. And tonight, that's the kind of performance I thought I saw from him.
Yeah, and like Skinner, I think he might have a little bit of difficulty against Florida, but he doesn't, both of those guys don't take no for an answer, right? They're in there like a dirty shirt. It doesn't matter if they're playing against a dude that's 6'7". They're still in there trying to win puck battles, and Arvidsson wasn't going to be denied tonight, and it's clear that, after getting pantsed by the Oilers in the first round for the last 3 years of his time in LA, that he wants to go farther and be more than what the Kings were able to offer him, and he's hungry, and it shows.
I have to think that Chris Knobloch got everything he wanted plus some out of that fourth line tonight. Janmark, Podkolzin, and Arvidsson were highly.
They were flying, man. They were just flying.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's our 2-1-1. Any closing thoughts before we start talking about the Stanley Cup Finals?
I mean, we're going to see they tried a different approach with the Clarence Campbell Cup tonight, didn't they?
Yeah, Connor grabbed a hold of it, and he didn't smile, but he kind of half lifted it.
Yeah.
So And I don't know if you noticed this, but he was talking to Corey Perry before he went over there, and I wonder if he was saying, "Should I lift it? Shouldn't I lift it?" And
Yeah, no, it appears that Corey Perry is the oracle of this team, man. Like they just guiding light at all times. I don't have an issue with it. Last year they didn't touch it. You know, I'm a little bit superstitious, but not as much as most fans or some fans would be, and especially hockey players. I'm okay with them trying something different. Let's see if it works out. I mean, it can't possibly work out worse than it did last year. So, you know, the worst at this point is a point to be taken in context. They're going to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yep,
for the second year in a row, and I have a strong feeling that we're going to see some supernova that I don't think we've even seen before.
My couple of closing thoughts, and I've kind of been thinking about a few of these things ever since the game ended tonight. You know, there were a few people who said last year's Cup final was a flash in the pan. But when you make a return trip, you erase that. Like, that's gone. Like, once you're in the Stanley Cup final twice, it's not an accident. And I'm really excited to see the steely-eyed approach these guys are going to take, because I'm here to tell you the sting of losing that Game 7 still feels fresh in all their minds. And I think there is a passion in this team this year, and a dig-in element that we haven't always seen in the past. Florida is one hell of a good hockey team. They know how to win. But you know what? So do the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, if you asked me right now who the best two teams in the NHL are, well, they're going to the Stanley Cup Finals. And I know that that's a low effort comment to an extent because they're going to the Stanley Cup Finals. But these teams in their respective conferences just sort of hit different, right? Like you know, they were one bad game or one bad period away from sweeping Dallas.
Yeah.
So they got a gentleman's sweep out of it. Like, this very easily could have been a 4-game sweep if they had just finished the third out in Game 1, right? This team is not good or even better. They're excellent. And if anybody is going to give that Florida team an absolute run for their money, it's going to be this one.
Well, we're going to find out soon enough. So let's wrap this up. Send people out to read the game grades. They're posted, and we'll get the podcast attached soon after that. Kevin, as always, thanks for stepping in and helping us on the Cult of Hockey podcast. We always appreciate your smart observations. Thank you.
No problem. Anytime, Kurt.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition, a clinching edition, of the Cult of Hockey podcast.
Thanks for listening, everyone.